Hello, and welcome to the Hug Me Brother podcast, episode 2. My name is Tyler.
And my name is Colton. Greetings from quarantine.
That's true. We are recording this during the quarantine times. So today we are going to be going over episodes 4, 5, and 6, which coincidentally is also the end of season 1. Only 6 episodes in the first season of the show, which I did not know. And let's just dive right into it. Episode 4, Two Idiots and a Baby. What'd you think?
I thought it was pretty good, so there we could review some of it. So we started off with Drake and Josh talking about the negatives and positives of having a stepbrother. And we could see Josh was, like, in the intro, like, doing something with his toenails. He was, like, clipping his toenails for some reason.
Right. I mean, I always love the intro. I mentioned that last week. It's always pseudo-relevant. So, premise of the episode, though, is... Oh.
I got a text, sorry.
Oh, look at that. Not being professional on the podcast. So, yeah, premise this is shortly that Drake has a concert to go do with his band, and Walter and the mom, I'm blanking on her name right now. Audrey. I have a dinner with Walter's boss. Potentially could get Walter a promotion. Walter's boss cancels because he doesn't have a babysitter, and Josh offers up Drake and him to babysit so his dad can still go on the dinner with his boss.
And Drake's just like, hold up.
And I do have to say, that bugged me kind of completely. Like, they're both in high school, right? Like, I babysat you and Emily just fine when I was I was one person babysitting 2 people. Like, I really thought that was actually... They never really address it. Drake only makes, like, one comment on it and kind of just drops the issue. I think it's just really shitty that Josh is just like, yeah, we will babysit. Like, what do you mean we? Like,
why couldn't he could have just said I will, I mean.
Right, exactly. Like, he is a teenage boy. Like, he can't handle a baby. Like, come on, man. Like, you're old enough. You don't need Drake for this.
He can handle Megan just fine.
Right, and what bugs me more is also, like, you don't just, like, wake up that day, and, like, Drake isn't just like, oh, yeah, we got a call to come play a gig that night. People book gigs normally, like, a week or 2 in advance, if not longer. So Josh probably knew that, like, Drake's band had a show to go play for a while. At least a week. Bare minimum. And so on the day of the day of the concert that Drake has to go play, Josh, just without even talking to Drake, just says, yeah, we'll babysit. Like, don't offer up other people's time. Like, that's super fucking rude. And, like, I feel like it's never addressed, like, how uncool of Josh that is. Like, because he's just kind of, like, the lovable one. But, like, come on, man. Like, Drake loves his band. He loves music. He's probably had this plan for a while, and you're just gonna fucking screw him over like that? Like, if I was Drake, I'd, like, obviously at the end of the episode, like, that's the whole, like, feel-good moment is Drake comes back because he loves his brother and wants to help him out. But if I was Drake, I don't think I would even felt one iota bad about ditching him. Like, no, dude, you don't talk for me. I've had this plan for a week, and this is important to me, so too bad you got yourself in over your head. Like, this is your fault. And I would have not have been as good a brother, because I was on full Team Drake about this. Like, Josh, I think, was the bad guy of this episode. Everything that happened was Josh's fault.
You know, it's crazy. So usually it's, like, Drake who's the bad guy, but, like, Josh, it just feels like it was, like, a 180 where, like, Josh is suddenly the antagonist.
And, like I said, my biggest problem is that they never, like, address it. Like, nobody ever, like, tells him, hey, you know, maybe you shouldn't speak for other people. Like, that, obviously the joke of the episode ends up just being, like, the baby, but this is one of the few times where I liked the writing of the first 3 episodes. I think this is also the first episode that Schneider didn't write. I don't know. This was the first episode where it bugged me that they didn't address what I thought was the actual issue of the episode, and it was Josh, like, just trampling all over his brother's plans. Like, you ruined your brother's plans, you forced him into doing something he didn't want to do. Like, and as far as I can tell, did they even get paid for their babysitting? Like, he went from, like, doing a gig to now just, like, watching a baby for free. Like, overall, like, the whole thing just, like, really, I was just, like, really felt for Drake in this episode. Like, from an outsider's perspective and just, like, a person who's had to babysit, I was just like, this is super uncool of Josh. And, like, they never, like... Nobody ever talks to him to be like, hey, don't fucking do that again. That's not cool.
And I'm not sure if, like, Drake is even, like, a baby person. I'm not sure, but, like, I wasn't a kid's person at first because, like, me and Tyler have a little cousin from, like, Indiana. And usually at Thanksgiving, our uncle would do something kind of uncool where he would, like, tell me, go watch your cousin. I'm like, you didn't even ask me. You're just telling me to go do it. That's kind of not cool. Like,
right. I definitely agree.
You're just going to demand me to watch. And I don't open up about this, but I do have a visual impairment. And I'm like, so you're going to tell your visually impaired nephew to go watch your, like, 6-year-old child unsupervised and not think about it at all. Like, that's just kind of uncool, too. Like,
sure. That being said, that was my problem with the episode as a whole, was kind of the overarching irresponsibility of Josh and how it wasn't addressed, that he was kind of the mean one. But that being said, comedy still hits, in my opinion. There was still a lot of good.
Oh, yeah, there was the first time Josh says headaches in this episode.
Yeah, that was fun. Again, always fun to see where a reoccurring joke starts.
The fish tank.
Yeah, they do the fish tank again, which is fun. The phone goes flying in the fish tank. Oh. And speaking of the phone... I did laugh because I was just like, I kind of didn't think about it as a kid, but it's one thing with Megan's pranks when she's pranking, like, Drake and Josh, and the joke is that, like, Walter and Audrey never, like, discipline her, but I was starting to think about it, and I was just like, some of these pranks are ruining, like, household items. Like, she put super glue on, like, what I assume is the phone for the whole house.
Yeah.
Like, at what point do they like, hey, things keep breaking, and... our daughter is the one who keeps breaking them. How much money is she costing Walter and Audrey with her pranks that ruin, like, household items? Like, you would think the parents would catch on that, like, Megan's breaking shit around the house or, like, ruining it. Because, like, I don't think you can put super glue on a phone and not have that, like, I don't know, like, I've never put super glue on a phone, but I feel like that would, like, mess it up a little bit.
You'd think. And I also noticed, not in this season, because, like, Megan's pranks are a little harmless because she's only 9, but, like, as she gets older, her pranks get a little more sophisticated and a little dark, and it's like, how have Walter and Audrey, which we'll obviously talk about this later seasons, why do they blame Drake and Josh for all their pranks? It's somehow always Drake and Josh's fault that things keep happening.
Right.
Like, there's the time Megan bought a sheep, and suddenly it's like, oh, Drake, Josh, you're standing next to it, so it's automatically your fault. Like, it's just kind of a problem that I've always had.
A couple other things that I noted. When Josh first loses the baby, I don't know, it made me snort. Like, it was a dumb joke, but it made me, like, giggle. Was just Josh calling for an infant like it was like a dog. Like, here, baby, baby. Like, I don't know. It made me laugh. Very, like, not that clever, but... just the delivery of it was very good, in my opinion.
I love the delivery where he's just like, my catapult's almost done, and the baby's gone. Wait, the baby's gone!
Yeah, that's definitely, like, classic sitcom logic.
And then, the weird part was the guy, I forget the character's name, was like Trevor, but he's like, they had the baby, and he's like, I want to sniff it, and I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, the drummer. I don't remember his name, but that was one of my last 2 notes on the episode is, I would absolutely buy that shirt he was wearing because it was just a black tank top and it just said cheese is good on it. And that is a great shirt. I would wear a shirt that says cheese is good.
Oh, I'd wear that. And then there was a few, like, just, like, lines that were delivered well. Like, there was the one where the bear is being winded and it, like, stops and then, like, Drake, like, tears the head off of it by accident and Josh is like, I said wind it, not murder it.
Yeah.
Which was actually pretty funny.
And my last comment was depending on how old you are, or your age group, or, if you watched this show, the Walter's boss is the same actor who plays the soup Nazi from Seinfeld.
Oh, I remember him.
So that was just fun to, I was like, hey, because that guy's just so recognizable as the soup Nazi, so it was just, fun to watch him walk into the scene and be like, oh yeah, he's something completely different.
Yeah, and I did want to touch on a big major part of this episode is Josh gets stuck on the roof, and he's, hanging there.
Yeah.
And the ladder just keeps falling.
Right.
And Josh is like, oh, come on. But the reason I bring this up is because of the really funny scene where Josh falls and just catch it and falls on Mr. Galloway. He falls on Mr. Galloway, which was pretty funny. Just the physical comedy of him falling off the roof.
Right.
Walter, your son is on me.
Yeah.
And then the ending, how did they just fix it all? They walk back inside and Drake is just playing the guitar and the baby's all happy.
Yeah, I mean, that seemed pretty easy. I mean, it's not like the baby was hurt or anything. It was just that Megan had it. And then, so really the only thing to note would be, probably when they got home and realized the bear was broken. Other than that, they didn't really, ruin anything.
Yeah, and then Sheldon, he says, this is what I get for not feeding my pet turtle in kindergarten.
Right. Or they also would, I guess, would have found out that the bear is broken, and when they get the baby home, they probably also would notice it didn't have a diaper, because they ran out of diapers, and the last joke is the mom being like, why do the kitchen curtains smell like pee? Meaning they took the curtain diaper off the baby and put it back in its pajamas. But that means they put the baby in its pajamas with no diaper on, so they gave the baby back with no diaper and a broken bear. So they probably won't be asked to babysit again, even though the baby was okay.
And didn't the baby, shit in the pajamas, though? So, wouldn't they notice, the pajamas?
Well, I mean, he didn't... No, he went to the bathroom when he was wearing them, but, he had a diaper at that time.
So what would you... The reason I brought up Sheldon was just because he will get brought up in, another episode. But what do you rate this episode?
6.5.
I'll rate it a 6.5 as well.
Yeah, I just couldn't...
Decent.
Again, there's lots of good moments. I liked some of the jokes, but overall, I was just really bugged by, Josh and, never really getting, to learn his lesson about, again, the moral of the episode ended up being oh yeah, Drake's a good brother, and he came back to help, but I'm that wasn't the issue that I thought needed to be resolved. I thought it was Josh speaking for other people and, trampling over his brother's interests and, desires. So,
yeah.
And then that was never addressed, so that's kind of what loses some score for me.
Yeah, and what I've noticed about Season 1 is a lot of the episodes, I guess, were meh. It gets a little better as the show goes on, but I guess it's just their starting point, and that's why a lot of it's meh.
I don't even know if a lot of it's meh. I really liked the pilot a whole bunch, and then I don't know, I think there's a lot of good, but I guess, like you said, a little bit of getting their footing, too.
And scenery changes in the bedroom later, too.
Yeah.
Because the room
Josh finally gets a bed.
Yeah, the room does not look how I remember it being, and it just feels like the room wasn't as brown.
Right where, Josh's bed is right now is just, a drum set. They haven't gotten around to, having his bed in the spot that it normally goes.
Yeah. So, we talked about the rating. So, the next episode was called First Crush.
Yes.
And they opened up with, they're talking about how they interact with women, and Drake is a ladies' man, and Josh is just horrible at talking to girls.
Right. I'll be honest, this is a very just cliche episode. And not saying that Drake and Josh, I've mentioned a couple times that they've done some classic sitcom jokes or classic just TV moments, but this is the one that
really feels sitcom-y.
Yeah, this is the one that really was just I don't know, I felt the same way about the stolen the girlfriend flirt, the cheating girlfriend episode. Maybe it's just that I when Drake and Josh interact as partners more than I when they're at odds. Not that they're ever at odds in this episode, But, like, I don't know, first crush or, like, can't talk to girls episodes, I don't know, maybe I'm just too old for them now, and, like, now I just think they're silly.
Like, I remember, like, in the later seasons, the show was funny because, like, Drake and Josh kind of they had, like, that married couple dynamic of, like a married couple with problems dynamic that they have later on.
Right. Yeah, this episode was just okay. There was nothing in this episode that I thought was memorable. Like, this was, I think, the most forgettable episode.
The only memorable thing I remember is it is the first time they bring back the gag of Josh just being like, spoons, and the silverware gag, because later he talks about forks in another episode.
Sure, and that's definitely pretty great. Always, like, again, mentioned a couple times now, like seeing where reoccurring jokes or themes come from. So... And definitely pretty awesome.
There's a subplot about Megan's snake.
Yeah, which that was one of my notes, is I guess that's part of the sitcom, like, comedy to it, and not explaining things. But that was one of the things that always kind of bugged me, is like, where did a 9-year-old girl find the money to buy a snake? And also...
where did she find the snake in the first place?
Right, where, like, I assume a pet store, but, like, how'd she get the money to buy a snake? And also, what kind of pet store is just, like, selling snakes to 9-year-old girls with no adults around?
Exactly, that's what I thought. I was like... So
I know that's supposed to be the funny part about it, is that, like, she's just a 9-year-old girl who gets these things, and, like, that's the ridiculous comedy. But, I don't know, the whole thing was... and then, like, hey, go give that snake back. And she just puts it in a backpack, and it's just like...
it just jumps on Drake's shoulder during his tryout.
I like when some of Megan's shticks are a little more grounded in reality, and this one just felt completely ridiculous. I will say, of everything, I think the big takeaway for me of this episode was, again, Josh Peck and his, like, ability to do physical and visual comedy, because even just his, like, body motions, I wrote down that just, like, Josh is he's so cringy that it's really, really funny. Like, the level of cringy he's able to, like, act out is really funny, because that level of just, like, ugh, just you kind of want to, like, look away from secondhand embarrassment. Like, Josh really, really nailed that this episode, and I thought that was the high point. But everything else was definitely just... yeah, I mean, if you have more to share, I really feel bad. I don't have much to say about this episode. It was just super simple, super basic. The ending was pretty funny, because he does the whole bit where Josh talks himself into a corner, says he knows how to play guitar, and then they try to do the funny, like, my arms are your arms gag, which is, like... just funny to think that could even work in the 2000s.
Yeah, but the main thing that bothered me here with this episode, I have a major problem, and that's Drake cares way too much about his image, because when he's talking to Josh, he's like, I can't have a brother who geeky and dates and tries to date girls, and it ruins, like, my image.
Sure.
And
like,
Drake just, like, cares way too much.
He's selfish and narcissistic well, not narcissistic, but selfish to the point where he's not worried about Josh's problem because it's a problem. He doesn't want to help Josh because he wants to be a good brother. He wants to help Josh out of a place of selfishness. He's like, I'm only helping you because you make me look bad, versus I'm helping you because that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, and that's kind of the main thing that bothers me. And it also kind of bothered me just how, like, why would the guy think that it was, like, Drake's fault that the snake, like, jumped on his shoulder? Megan put it in his backpack. It's not like you go to a wreck, like a tryout, be like, I'm gonna put a snake in my backpack and make it jump onto people, like...
Yeah, I mean, sure. That, for me, I was able to hand wave just because that's just, I feel like sitcom TV in general is... most sitcom TV problems could be solved by the question, well, why didn't you just explain it to them? Because nobody explains anything to anybody in sitcoms. So that was just like, whatever, I get it. He threw a snake at people in the front row. The guy overreacted. That was the least of my problems.
Well, he did, like, get a second chance at the end, because, like, I love how, even though, Drake was kind of a jerk to Josh, he still helped him in the end and was like, I got you a second chance, and things like that, like...
Right. And then at the end, Josh, like, gets the girl with his art, which was, like, the thing he was good at from the beginning. Instead of trying to, like, pretend he has Drake's talent, he should have just used his own talent, which was, again, art. So, it was just very a color-by-numbers episode. It was the least original of all the episodes they put out so far. And I was definitely just like, yeah, okay, like... I didn't care about the episode when it was over. It was very just forgetful for me.
Yeah. And if they're a couple now, which it implies, how come this girl's never brought up again? Like Mindy used to be brought up like all the time, but like this girl's just like never brought up again.
Right.
Which is kind of odd.
I mean, again, this is near the end of the season, and then they probably...
Which I wonder why the season was so short, because, like, seasons 2, 3, and 4 had, like, 17 episodes, and then this one's just, like, 6. Mm-hmm. Which is kind of weird, why it's so short.
But, yeah, I mean, I give this episode a 4.
I give it a 5.
Fair.
A 5 out of 10. 5 out of 10 Quatlers.
Yeah.
Quatlers.
So episode 6, the
Grammy
season 1 finale. Yes,
Grammy. They're talking about in the beginning how they're not little kids anymore, which is, I guess, relatable to like kids. It's like a kid relation. I mean, I remember I felt that way when I was like 13. So it's like, you know, kind of a relatable one to teenagers. So I do applaud them for that. But they certainly don't act like adults.
Right.
That's for sure. What did you think of the intro where they were talking about the little kids thing?
I mean, again, all the intros are good. I don't think I've seen a bad intro yet. They're classic. The episode itself, I mean, I like this episode. It's a good season finale.
In my first episode, noticed the warp trap when Megan, when they open the door. And Megan has, like, a warp trap.
Oh, like you mean like that classic, like the rope?
Yeah.
Upside down? Yeah.
Yeah, the rope trap, and then Drake, like, falls on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then Megan puts a sign on Josh's back. I don't remember if it said "kick me" or if it said something else.
I also don't remember. I just remember Grammy's sign, to be honest.
I remember Grammy saying, I'm guessing it was a sign of something else, because I remember the grandma saying something along the lines of, like, you don't put signs on people, and that's all I remember.
Right. Grammy was a weird character, because in the first, like, 5-10 minutes of the episode, I really, really didn't like her, like, at all. Like, she comes in, and she's an elderly adult who's not, like, elderly, like, she's still young enough. I mean, she's spry, she plays basketball, she's clearly, like, sharp. So my biggest problem right off the bat was, like...
Here's $2 off your next haircut. Like,
right, like, and gave Josh $50. Like, a lot of those things were, like, very juvenile and shitty. Like, I get that, like, he's not your... like biological grandson, but like you're an adult, and like you came in hot and showed clear favoritism to Josh, excited to see him, gave him $50, told him he's the best, and you were like, and you're a fucking lazy punk, and here's the bullshit gift, and
then she's like, go like organize my panties upstairs, and like
right, and then she just like treats him like a
servant, like
a just butler, just like go take my bags upstairs, unpack them. Like doesn't make Josh do anything, gives him money. Like she ends up redeeming it. She ends up being cool by the end, but like only after Drake does the right thing. So it's just like, oh, like you like Drake had to prove himself to you before you could like be nice to him. Like that seems like really, I don't know, mean and like juvenile. Like oh, like instead of just being nice to start, like good, like if you're a good person, you should always be nice to start until people are rude to you. Arguably, Drake's never met this woman yet. Walter and Audrey hadn't been together that long yet. So this is his first time meeting Grammy. Maybe second, because like she already has this weird opinion of him. But like, even if it's only the first or second time she's ever met Drake, this is like really like terrible behavior by an adult to just, like, completely, like, be mean to a teenager. Like, what are you doing, Grammy? Like, you end up being cool, but you spent the first half of the day being, like, a cartoonishly, like, it feels like Cinderella with, like, the evil stepmother, like... she's like, oh, like, fuck you, Cinderella, and just really mean to Cinderella, but then is really, really nice to her actual daughters, and it's like, that's the vibe I got off Grammy, just like, oh, Joshy, and just like, fuck you, Drake, like, wow, so that's rude.
Yeah, and one of the main plot points here was a band called Rock Shock.
Well, the concert.
The concert, yes.
Rock Shock.
The Rock Shock concert, because...
it sounded more just like, I don't think a band would be called that. It's more like if you were to, like, go to, like, the Warped Tour, or just, like...
The Hella Mega Tour, like, it's, like, one of those, like, big shows.
Yeah, or, like, the Open Air Festival. Like, it sounded more just like a name for, like, a showcase of bands.
Yeah, and the plot here is, like, Drake really wants to go to Rock Shock, but, like, Walter and Audrey say no, and the grandma knows about it, so Drake, like, sneaks out. And it turns out the tickets are counterfeit. Because apparently one of their friends is a moron and decided to 3D print them.
I mean, it's the drummer from the earlier episodes. It's the same kid.
Yeah, the drummer decided to, like, copy them with a printer.
Yeah, he photocopied them.
Yeah.
Which, in the 2000s, probably meant they were even just, like, in black and white, even if the tickets had color on them. And, you know, printer paper is not the same thing as ticket paper.
Yeah, so, like, how would they not know the difference? Where did he get ticket paper? Like,
I'm gonna say I don't think he did. I think that's, like, what's fucking goofy about it is... But I guess it's also the rest of theirs fault. Like, you have a drummer who you know is kind of a little off and known to be dumb. He tells you he's got 4 free tickets, and you didn't even think to be like, hey, show me the tickets first.
And they're just photocopied. And then he... in the end, Grammy shows up, and she's like, I'll play you in basketball, but if you lose, you have to tell them what happened. So, like...
Right, and this was their second game, because the first game was them playing just to see if if Drake could go out. And he beat Grammy, and that meant he could go out with his friends, but on the premises that he still didn't go to the concert. But he went out with his friends, they went to the concert anyways. And this is also where I have a personal story to go with the episode, and that's...
Yay, story time!
So they go to the well, not a story so much as giving my life experience.
I like experiences in podcasts, you should tell us one.
So, if you go to a concert and your tickets are fake, there's no, like... concert jail like they get brought to. That's not a thing. I work at a concert hall. I'm currently a bartender, but when I started there, I worked security. So I've done that job, security for a concert hall. And if your tickets are fake or not real, all we do is tell you to leave. We are a security team working a concert. That means there's hundreds, if not thousands of people in this place. You know what we don't have time to do? Try and prosecute people with fake tickets. It's just, hey, these are fake. You gotta go. That's it. That's all we do. We tell them to leave because we do not have the time or the, like, resources to then, like... We don't need to waste an entire security guard sitting there watching people with fake tickets and just like, you're in trouble, and like wave my finger. Like, there's no little detention area. There's no such thing as like, oh, these are fake tickets. We're gonna call the cops on you. You know what the cops don't care about? People who have fake tickets. That is so like below their pay grade and not what they're worried about. And then if you try to pass off fake tickets, again, your only thing is, these are fake, you can't come in. So your fine is that you probably paid for fake tickets. We don't fine you for trying to get into the concert with fake tickets. Everything that happened after they gave the fake tickets, that's just all completely fake TV stuff. Because literally everything that happened would never happen in real life.
I didn't think so, because, like... what like concert hall just has a jail cell just like hiding in the thing.
I mean, yeah, they might have like a spare room like that, but like a spare room like that, that's normally either a backstage area or like, yeah, holding people for fake tickets is 100%.
Usually, you only get held for like what, shoplifting or things like that.
Well, yeah, because then you've actually like broken a law. Like, again, most of the time with fake tickets, it's not even that like they know they're fake. Half the time, it's scalpers and they thought they bought real ones. Like, in 90% of fake ticket cases, the person giving you the tickets doesn't realize they're fake. So it's not like they were even intentionally trying to do something against the rules. And that's why we have tickets. And I don't think there's any law against, like, I don't know. All I know is even if there is, nobody enforces it. If you ever go somewhere with fake tickets, or don't realize you have fake tickets, somebody tells you have fake tickets, the end of the conversation is, these are fake, you need to leave, and that is as far as it will ever go.
Yeah.
And that's coming from somebody who has done security for a ticketed event.
And then in the ending, she does, I do like what she did here. Drake was about to tell Audrey and Walter about how he snuck out to Rock Shock, and then the grandma just speaks up and she's like, the truth is I beat Drake at basketball.
Right. Again, she ends up being cool, but only after Drake does the right thing. He agrees to the terms, he, apologizes, he gives Grammy the money back like Drake does. Drake basically proves that at the end of the day, he might make some silly, selfish decisions, but ultimately he does have a good heart and he is a good kid. And then Grammy finally kind of warms up to him and covers for him and gives him his money back because she's like, oh, like you proved you're a good kid. But again, it's awesome. Grammy ends up being pretty cool. Again, being good at basketball is fun, and like she is funny. But again, I was a little perturbed that Josh had to prove himself to her because I thought that was a little juvenile of Grammy. But overall, she is a fun character. I like the actress who plays her. I don't know if we really ever see Grammy again. I can't remember.
She's mentioned, but I don't think she's ever on screen. Because I know in the Treehouse episode, she brings them that telescope.
Okay.
Or whatever, so
Yeah, I don't remember enough episodes from growing up, so overall, I do really like this episode. The concert thing, again, that's just a personal thing because I've done that stuff for real. But overall, it is a fun episode. I think it's a classic episode, too. Grammy beat Drake at basketball, very, just, classic stuff.
I'll give it a 7.
I was thinking the same thing. I was also right on the 7 area with it.
Yeah, I think it was a fun one to watch. It was, definitely. What was your favorite episode out of Season 1, since we're all Season 1 wrapped up?
Honestly, I think it's just the pilot. I think the pilot's my favorite episode.
I'm going to go with Believe Me Brother, because I remember giving that one a 9. So I'm going to go with that one.
Sure.
That was my favorite one. Even though it was cliche, it was fun.
I agree.
It's one of those episodes where it's cliche, but it's fun. It's yeah. It's like other episodes where they might be cliche, but they're fun to watch. And probably soon you'll see us in episode 3, which we'll talk about some episodes from season 2. Which season 2 is when it gets interesting, so.
Yeah, we will be starting season 2 next episode, which will be a lot of fun. Like he said, hopefully get into some more classic Drake and Josh type stuff. Maybe some more of the stuff I remember from growing up. But, yeah, we look forward to seeing you guys again. Thank you for listening. This has been
the Hug Me Brother.
Now that I know that anything's possible, I found a way. No one can break what's so